Hey everyone, how's it going? So now the like button is updating to reflect the number of likes without us even having to refresh the page, and every time it's just showing the new number. So what we're going to do now though is take this a little bit further and change the color. So if you look at my finished version, you'll see that I've got a color highlighted every time, if it's pressed, if it's active. It just lets the user know if they've already liked it or not. So what we're going to do is add that. So this part's going to stay there, that's great, we're going to keep that as is, but underneath that, we need to basically check if the user has liked it or not, because we have the newly updated likes array, so essentially we need to check if this user has liked it or if they haven't liked it, right? So it's basically going to be a check on this likes array. Now there's one problem though, we don't have access to the user logged in's username on the client like this, right? So we have in app.js, of course, we pass the user logged in back to the client. That sends it to the page while it's rendering. So we can't actually access this in JavaScript. So the payload variables are purely used when rendering the pages. So in our home page, in home.pug, you'll notice we have, well, I suppose we're not actually using anything here, but in main layout, for example, we're of course using the page title variable to add the page title, right? But what we're going to do as well is save the user logged in variable to the client this way. So the way we do that is by going back to app.js, and where we use this, we're going to duplicate that. So I'll put a comma and I'll duplicate that line, so copy and paste it below. And this is going to be user logged in JS. So user logged in JS for JavaScript, just so we know that this one is the one that the client is going to use. Okay. Now the reason we're going to do that, and we're not just reusing this one, is because we're going to take the value of this and we're going to put it inside of a JSON.stringify call. So I'm going to take this, I've cut it, or copy it, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to say JSON.stringify. Okay, and inside there you're going to put the user object. So why have we just done that? Well, in order to pass the variable to this page so that we can use it and assign it to a variable on the client, that is one that's not purely used in this Pug template, but actually available to us in our JavaScript code. So in order to do that, we need to stringify it first. Now, in order to pass data between pages and calls, you have to stringify the data, which essentially just takes an object and converts it to a string so that it can be passed between calls. That's all you need to know. But essentially, this just means it's going to pass the user object as a value that we can access using userloggedin.js in the Pug template, right? And with that in mind, what we're going to do is go to the body here, so the top of the body. The very first thing we're going to do is say script and then dot, like that. Script dot. And when you say script dot, I mentioned this before, but that means you're rendering actual JavaScript into the page. It's the same as if you put a script tag with some JavaScript in your HTML page. It's exactly the same thing, okay? So that's what it will do with it once it renders it. It will put this into a script tag. But all we're going to do is say var user logged in, and then we're going to say equals. And now we need to get this this value from app.js, this value that's in the payload. So we're taking this userloggedin.js variable and we can access it here. So what we're going to do is say exclamation point, and then inside curly brackets, we're going to put the name of it, which we know is userloggedin.js. All right. So what have we just done? We've said take the payload value, this one right here, and then we've taken it and injecting it into the page. That's what this does. It buffers it. So we're buffering the value into the page, and it's going to store it in this variable here. Now, it's easier if I show you what that does. I'm going to restart the server because we did make a change on app.js. So I'll go to here and refresh the page, log in. And if I go to the body tag in here, or you'll see right at the top, we have user logged in, and we don't actually have a value there, so that didn't work. But we were supposed to see the username. So let me go figure out why we're not seeing that. And I can see why. I think I just didn't save app.js. So make sure you save that, and let's try that again. Now we're going to see it. So there we go. So what we've just done is we've taken the user object and we've injected it into the page in a way that is stored it into a user logged in variable. And now we're able to access this. So if I go to the console, type in useLoggedIn, you can see we have access to this variable. So we now have the useLoggedIn information, and we can use that in our JavaScript code. In the payload, the values we specify here are only available while it's rendering the Pug pages or the Pug templates, okay? We don't have access to anything in the payload once the Pug template has rendered. Okay, so that means in our common.js, for example, we can't access anything that's in the Pug template. So what we do instead, we take it here where we can access the payload, and then we inject it into a page in a way that stores it in a variable. Okay, and now we have access to it.